Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. If you enjoy our content, please consider donating and following our socials.
I'd like to talk about relationships and what our religion says about them.
Okay.
Kind of like in the way the Christians do about how the world they perceive relationships are supposed to be from their religious standpoint.
Well, what types of relationships specifically? Because there's a lot of kinds of relationships.
Well, I'm talking husband, wife.
Okay.
An adult.
Right. Okay. So significant others. We're not talking about like family members and things like that. We're okay.
I want to sit here and say in our belief system that I believe that we tend to want the women to make the first move. That sort of plays out in our religion because the whole concept of the God chasing after the goddess.
Sure.
That keeps on coming into play in our religion over and over again as she dances around, tempting him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I think any relationship, I mean, obviously, if we go there, that negates, like same-sex unions where you'd still have that dynamic. Somebody's always kind of the chaser.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe that we see it as more of it's the woman's prerogative to initiate before the guys, even though the guys might be sitting there going, hey, I'm here. Look, I'm cute. See me? I'm flirting.
True. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. That makes sense. I think pagan women in general tend to be more forward.
I believe they're the ones that initiate the relationship. They're the ones that sit down and look at their significant others going, oh, no, this is a relationship, just to let you know.
I think that's the case. Yeah. But I think that's the case in a lot of instances. I think, like I said, I think pagan women are just more forward because we are not, we're more aware of our role in the union or in any type of relationship as a pivotal player and not just, right, how some faiths view a woman as being the lesser decision maker. Yeah. Right. So we tend to be more forward, I think. Okay.
So what other things does our religion actually say about relationships that you see and how we're supposed to treat each other?
I think there's very little, right, in the way of like hard and fast rules. We don't have that when it comes to marriage or union or relationships. But, we can always look to the tenets. We can always look to craft law and find, I think, meaning in the way we view self-conduct. We tend to be a lot more upfront with our partners, and we tend to be a little bit more blunt, which just comes down to if you can't depend on me to tell you the truth, then who can you, kind of thing.
Right.
So there's that element. I think too, it depends on if you want to go down the rabbit hole of the different traditions where you have more stringent guidelines, like with the Celts and, the way they viewed a union for a year and a day and, that sort of thing.
We pretty much do, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the sort of the society we live in, I mean, we're doing this pretty much now. Most people live together now before they even get married.
Oh, for sure.
Do.
For sure.
I mean,
it's very rare nowadays to get married and not have lived with a partner or, experienced a trial, playing house, so to speak.
Now, I mean, but would you encourage people in temple to get married?
Oh, that's a crazy question. I don't know that.
I mean, from a religious standpoint, as priests and priestesses, we want our religion to grow. We want our people to get married. We want them to have kids and the whole 9 yards. Is it our job to encourage this or not to encourage? I'm asking.
The way it used to be, I mean, oddly, right, the fundamentalist view in the Christian faith, I don't think it's applicable to us. You know, so much of what happens in the Christian faith is the idea that you have a union under God, right? You meet a partner, you have the same faith or same beliefs, you have to be on the same page or you can't get married effectively. And then you enter the union, you have children, and then you raise those children in the faith. So in a weird way, right, it's proselytizing within the house.
Right.
Which I think is kind of crap. You know, for modern peoples, I mean, I think pagans in a lot of ways were the originators of, we don't necessarily believe the same thing, and that's fine. We can still get along. We can still have a successful marriage without being exactly the same in our personal beliefs.
Right.
And the idea of, you know, having children for the sake of, you know, bolstering the numbers of the church. I mean, that's crazy talk. Like, that's not why that's not a good reason to have kids. So, I mean.
But no, it's not. But yet we still see this behavior in a lot of religions.
Sure.
You know.
Sure. But to me, it's like, speaking as a priestess, right? It's more important to me that if a couple comes to me and they want to get married, that they have had ample time together to, you know, make sure they're not rushing into anything, and that they know each other well enough that they're making a good move, right? Like, it's not like they met 3 weeks ago and now they want to get married, because that's just nuts. So
not when you're 16. Right. So my responsibility as a priestess becomes more about, are they entering into this soundly? You know, are they both on the same page? Have they thought about the future together? Have they had ample time to get to know one another and adjust to life together? You know, are they acting not from a place of impulse, but a place of love and commitment? And really, outside of that, you know, are they just both displaying the mental and emotional maturity for a union? That's it. You know, have they, like if they're people within our temple specifically, we might recommend marital counseling because that's never a bad idea. Whether it be spiritual counseling or, you know, actual therapy. But that's really all I look at, you know, right? Is it just a sound decision for the two people entering into it? Well, since you mentioned it earlier, even though we both have been in relationships where our significant others are of different religions, do you think it's easier when people are of the same religion when getting together?
Sure. It also depends on the goals. It depends on the goals of the marriage, right? If so many couples nowadays enter into marriage and they don't want children. Kids are not a priority for a lot of people anymore. So if you don't want kids, then certain aspects of your relationship, like religion, are less poignant to some people. They're less important because it's not necessary for both partners to be on the same page if there's not a little person that they're trying to raise in between two faiths. Everybody can just do their own thing. If they do want kids, then it's just wise to have a plan, right? How are you going to go about this? How are you going to teach this child or introduce them to one faith, both faiths? You know, what's the plan there to not create confusion,
right?
And to create something stable. But yeah, it is in the sense of participation. Like, look, we're pack animals, right? At the end of the day, we
Right.
really are. Human beings are just a form of a pack animal. We like samesies. We like order. We like for things to be the same. And so when you have a specific religious calendar and you have rites and things that you're following, you kind of want your partner to be there. You want them to you want to feel, or you want to share the feeling that you get from your faith, the contentment, the hope, the solace, the peace. You want your partner to experience that as well. So it can be tough if and when there's either a resistance, or they don't want to participate, or it's not of interest to them, or,
It's treated like you're out there talking to yourself in the middle of the night for the fun of it.
Kind of. But I mean, ironically, there is the funny thing about religion, right? If we extrapolate, if we pull deity out of the situation, and we pull, right, some of the spirituality out, and we just look at the actions, and we just look at the things we do, we look like crazy people.
I know. I'd hate to think what aliens think of us sitting there.
Right.
Going, what are these people doing? Why?
It reminds me of one of my favorite comedians talks about the how if you extrapolate the bride from a wedding, and you just look at what the bride by herself, it is an exercise in madness, right? This is a grown woman dressing up like a human cupcake.
Yes.
To run around for the day going, I'm a pretty, pretty princess. It's ridiculous.
Look. No, I've never gotten over the whole entire concept of the veil.
Yeah,
right?
I mean...
Like what? You didn't see her beforehand. I mean, really? I mean...
Well, but the religious significance of the veil, right, goes way, 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 way back. The religious significance and the various cultural influences of the veil, yeah, they go way back, and nobody practices those anymore. Nobody, like, most people don't even give a damn. Now it's just, it's a pretty head thing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like most people go, you sit there and go, why do you jump over the broom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you ask most black couples, they know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. There is the irony, right? Tradition is, it's what, there's customs. And that's what weddings have largely become. A large portion of what it is custom and ceremony. But origin is not always being adhered to. And some people don't even care, right? They want the pomp and circumstance. So, okay, have it. But yeah, I mean, for us, I don't know. I think in the bigger picture, when we think about pagan relationships, we're, as a culture, if we want to look at it that way, I like to think we're less judgmental,
Yeah.
We don't much care. Care is a wrong word, right? It makes us seem like we don't care. We don't care about a lot of the same things that other faiths put so much emphasis on. We don't care if a couple is quote unquote living in sin, or if you have a child out of wedlock. We don't care about the status of your virginity. We don't care about what you choose to do in the privacy of your own bedroom. We just don't give a shit. None of that. We don't regulate any of that. In fact,
well, at the end of the day, if you don't want somebody in your business, you sure in the world don't want to be anybody else's.
Right. So, but again, for a lot of us, it's more accepting. You will be hard pressed in most instances to find a pagan who is shocked or surprised by someone else's relationship status or situation or whatever it is that they do. I also look at relationships much the way I look at other traditions. Your relationship is yours. It's not mine. Right? So I can easily go, well, that's their relationship. If that works for them, that's fine. It's not my tradition, but that's okay. That's how I view that sort of thing. We tend not to judge. We tend not to be shocked. Sex is unto itself something that the majority of us, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but right, we tend to consider it to be a healthy thing until it isn't. Right? Yeah, I mean, we don't put a lot of restrictions on people like that. We don't have a lot of hard, fast rules about, a wife must do X or a husband must do X. Like, we don't.
Don't think about it.
I think that, ironically, especially now that a lot of people are, in open marriages and open relationships, and you have a lot more polyamory going on. I think some of my friend group and some people that I know were far more shocked by that. And I think my time as a pagan kind of made me go, okay.
Well, I mean, I'd put it to you this way. For as long as me and Lord Oswin have been together, everybody in the pagan communities always treated us automatically as if we were married.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, there was no question about it. Yeah, those two are together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So open, accepting, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's really nothing else to hear except to sit there and say, hey, what would be your best advice for someone starting a relationship?
Oof. I mean, I feel like but we got to get more specific than that. I mean, that's too open-ended, I feel like.
What? Wouldn't you say like the biggest thing for a relationship is just communication?
Mm-hmm.
Just sitting down and talking to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's communication, it's honesty, it's not deferring, Those are the biggies. I don't feel like it's as complicated as people want to make it.
Yes. I'd agree with you there.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like if there's anything I've learned over the years, it's the idea that expectation, disappointment, okay? Disappointment is what happens when your expectation is to be over there, but you're over here.
Right.
Yeah. So if your expectations of your partner are vastly different than the reality that you are currently living in, right? That's going to be a recipe for disaster. But acceptance is key. Yeah. What else? What do you think? I mean, it is an interesting topic.
It is.
I'm realizing
coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in our tradition, we have daily activities that we are required. Unfortunately, ours is only meditation. True?
Well, and required is such a strong word even as well.
Yeah.
I think, Life Temple, we require our neophytes to meditate daily. We encourage everyone else to. It's not, I wouldn't see it as a requirement. I mean, we're not Muslim. We don't, yeah.
We don't pray 5 times a day.
Right.
Toward Mecca.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that meditative practice is very important to our faith, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just always a little leery of required. Where it gets weird though, is, I mean, but that's just us. I don't know about others.
Well, I've always seen there's a difference between I'm required to do my homework, but if I'm learning something on my own and wanting to learn it, I'm more out to do it. In other words, if I want to do a prayer in the morning, that seems to me more spiritual or more rewarding than I'm required to pray so many times a day. I've made my quota.
Well, but that's just because that's not your faith or tradition.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If it was, you might think differently about it. I don't think that most practicing Muslims see their daily devotionals as a chore. I think, for them it's, I'm sure there's, moments where you're like, oh, geez, I'm a little tired today. I wish I didn't have to. But, but I don't think they see it as a chore. But for us, outside looking in, of course, it seems that way. We'd be like, geez, this is a lot.
Well, some people say the same thing about us, saying, hey, you need to meditate at least once a day.
I mean, look at the Wiccan calendar.
Yeah.
We have some witches celebrate all the full moons.
Yes.
They celebrate all of the new moons.
Yes.
They celebrate all of the grands.
Yes.
All of the lessers. That's a lot. I mean, if all you do is the full moons and the 8 Sabbaths, right?
Right.
You're already at 20 individual, right?
Right.
20 annual celebrations. Sometimes 21 if it's right, because there's often a blue moon. So, and some people might go, well, other faiths go to church weekly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Some go twice a week.
Some go twice a week. I mean, so I think it just depends on that particular tradition. But
you're not going to sit there and personally saying somebody has to do this.
No.
We want people to do these things, right? And we want to encourage people to do them. So how do we encourage them without them make them feel like it is a chore or task?
Again, I just think this is where everyone's individual faith varies. But I mean, if we're talking about faith as a whole, if we're talking about faith in the grand scheme, right? Not just us,
right?
Because when you say we here, I think you're using the royal we.
Yeah.
It's
religion in general.
Yeah, it's about seeing the benefit that is brought to their life. I think that a proper devotional of any kind, when you see the power that it has and when you see what it can achieve and you see the growth from it, sure, it becomes less chore-like. Now, this is also why typically you get them started as kids.
Yeah. Well, again, I've known to sit there and encourage people to do the affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
This, to me, is still the same thing as doing a prayer or anything else. It's just you're doing it to yourself, not directly to a deity or something like that.
I mean, many would argue, what's the difference?
Exactly.
Yeah. As long as you are taking time out of your day to be aware of your spiritual self, to honor your spiritual self, to connect with your spiritual self, right?
That seems to be the more important part. It's just taking time out of yourself to have that moment of reverence, of spirituality out of the day.
Yeah. But there is also an inner and outer component here.
Right.
I think pagans are a little more aware of this than other faiths, potentially. There is there are prayers, offerings, mini rituals that you offer to the gods. But then there's the things that you do for yourself. So it's interesting how, I don't know, maybe that's even an inaccurate way of looking at it. I'm not sure.
So now here's a question for you. When does one of these daily practices become more of a hindrance than a help? Is there a possibility?
Yeah. So that's the risk we take when somebody starts walking the spiritual plane too damn much.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
It's very easy to fall into sort of a meditative addiction.
Right.
You want to spend more time there than you do
Here.
here. Yeah. In our world. There's also dependency.
Yes.
There can be a very strange, like an almost dependent sort of, like I've seen it with divination.
Right.
We've seen it with, like I can't do anything without consulting the cards first.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know if I should buy an avocado or a without consulting a card.
Yeah, a lot of indecision, a lot of and let me ask the gods. It's like, well, they got better things to do. But yeah.
So that's when it starts to become a hindrance. Let's say you're trying to start a daily practice, right? Regardless of what it is, meditating, praying, whatever. What are some ways to help make these more of a habit?
Pick a time every day, right? Same time, right. Same place. Make a space, make a special little spot for the purpose of meditation. I think that it's important to, if need be, set a timer.
Reminders.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny part. On average, once you've done something for 3 months, it's pretty much considered a habit.
About that, yeah. It depends. There's different views of that, but yes, it's after a while it just becomes the norm.
Yes. And you no longer need all this because you're automatically doing it. It's kind of like getting up and making coffee first thing in the morning.
Yeah. For sure.
I know it's the first button I press.
Yeah. It's just a habit. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't even think about it.
Nope. Not really.
Now, when doing these things, is that a better way of doing it? Doing these things without actually thinking about them, or taking that moment and thinking about what you're doing while you're doing it? Should it be more automatic or should it be more thoughtful? Because I could see the advantages of both.
I don't know. There's, again, what comes to mind is a lot of Muslim practices regarding daily devotionals and prayers. And on one hand, what they do can seem a little complicated.
Yeah.
But then you also realize, does that not add to the ritualness of it? The
mystique, the spirituality, the movement.
Look, there's something about it that I like, right? Because what they do is body and mind.
Right.
It's very in tune, and there's a series of things that take place. And I do believe that has a benefit because it readies the mind, it readies the body, the spirit, right? It all comes together due to how specific it is. It also, let's be honest, it's a little bit of, I almost want to say it's a little bit of pain, right? It's a little bit of an inconvenience. And, the gods enjoy inconveniencing us. It's right. It's like, to me, it's like when we play tug of war with an animal, right? When I play tug of war with a dog, I'm intentionally making its life a little difficult in that moment.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it fun, but let's be honest, I'm also frustrating the dog.
Well, it's kind of like playing video games on God mode. They're only fun for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's no real challenge there.
Right. It's sort of the same thing here. I feel like, the gods are, of course they want a little bit of, we have to be a tiny bit inconvenienced if we expect to learn and grow from the process. So
it shouldn't be like going to McDonald's.
No, not really. Not really.
No.
And also, I think, the older we get, it's funny, right? Like, again, I look at the Muslim prayer practice and I'm like, man, it's all well and good when you're in your 20s and your knees are great. What's it like for grandpa in his 70s? He's got to get down on the ground again, on his knees. It's not comfortable.
What? No.
It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not great. And there is something to be said for that. It is part of the challenge of a daily devotional, of a meditation, is to be able to put aside your own discomforts, to work through them, to still have that moment with God.
Right.
And that's not always easy.
No. But I don't think we think of these daily devotional things in the same way we do ritual. But technically, they are. To some extent, there's still a connection to the divine, to all this other. So why do we look at this differently than we would ritual? Because in my head, I see them sort of connected or the same.
I see it as it's a little mini piece of it.
Yeah.
It's a piece of ritual circle that you can take with you every day, that remains with you. But is it the same? No. No, I don't believe that it is.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
See, because I still
First
believe
off, I'm not calling quarters.
No.
And I'm not creating an elaborate circle. I'm not building the temple.
No, you're not.
For my daily moment.
No.
Yeah. But it's the daily moment that helps prepare us to be able to be in the right headspace to build ritual space.
Yes.
So they are important. They are tied together. But outside of that,
no.
All right. I don't see it that way, because to me it's just that. It's that it's being able to drop into an almost a meditative state at the drop of a hat. And we see it a lot. It gets very frustrating. We see first degrees, especially, I feel like, they come in, and it doesn't seem to matter how many times we say, drop your baggage at the door, and whatever else is going on doesn't matter. And if they're casting circle, it still doesn't seem to fail, right? There's always a bit of a there's always a couple of people that are just that. They're frazzled. It seems like from the minute they walk in the door.
Right.
They're always a bit exasperated. They're always breathing a little too heavy. They're always, it seems like they never relax.
Right.
And the idea is just that their daily meditative practice should be able to help them to drop into that space very quickly upon entering the temple doors, to be able to then perform their duties.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it doesn't always happen that way.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It will get wrapped up in their lives a whole lot easier than we think they do.
Which is ironic, because, well, and I always wonder how much the car ride situation influences. I feel like because if you have a nervous driver with a long drive,
right,
to get to ritual, then by the time they step out of that car, right?
Yeah. I mean, after fighting traffic and the whole 9 yards,
they're a bundle of nerves, versus the person who learns to meditate in traffic and while driving. They get out of the car, they're fine. They're already ready to go.
Yeah.
That's what I used to do when I had to travel. I would just slip into a meditation behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually one of my favorite things to do.
Actually, it seems to be the best place to do that sometimes.
I'm always, I mean,
unless you're behind 18-wheelers, then you'll just pull off when they pull off.
I mean, I always do find that funny. We're a big fan of the walking, talking meditation.
Yeah.
And I think people are, often confused about what that means, but it's just that it's one foot in both places.
Yeah.
And it's the ability to let the creative mind, the imagination take over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's just the idea that rhythmic activity, like driving, can help. There's a lot of different ways that people can obtain a meditative state. They have to, for the people that, again, who are sitting there like, I can't do it. It takes practice, but sometimes it's worth trying to meditate while doing something that is automatic.
Yes. It's easy to get onto a track and go into a meditative state when you're just walking around.
Mopping, sweeping, vacuuming, any of those, mowing the lawn.
Yes.
They're all they're great ways.
Doing the lawn is a whole lot easier, especially when you're using a lawnmower, because you could sort of use the vibrations of the lawnmower to help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've done that more than once.
Yeah. Yeah. So if the sitting still thing isn't working for you, try it a different way. Anything that is a very repetitive motion and movement,
yes,
helps tremendously. And if all else fails, there's always Tai Chi.
Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, even solitaire can help you do the same thing.
The card game?
The card game.
Technically, couldn't any card game?
Technically, but solitaire is a little bit easier. You're doing it by yourself in your own concept. You're not sitting there debating or formulating. Ooh,
that's true.
It's my component.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay.
Ready for some coffee?
Yeah, it's definitely time for more coffee.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, a maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning